I got the motor mounts completely built, completely installed. It was a lot of jacking the motor up, setting it down. First I set the motor down and just made a small pilot drill the same size as the motor mount holes. And then I took a spade bit and I made a 1-inch paddle spade bit and just kind of went down about 3/8 of an inch into the wood to allow for the welds under the bolts. I took a 1-inch sleeve and made sure it fit around my welds, so I ground the welds down so that they would be sure to sit into those 1-inch paddled out holes in the wood. Bolted the motor mounts back onto the motor, set it down, then I piloted holes for the screws to hold the motor mounts down. You can see the screws holding them down, and I put at least 2 screws in each one while I had the motor down on it to hold it in place. Then I lifted the motor back up and finished putting all the rest of the screws in. I used my 90-degree pneumatic drill. That was very handy for that, to get in underneath the motor. And then I used a pneumatic ratchet with a large Phillips bit on it to put the screws in. They're pretty big screws. They're not a typical wood screw. They are wood screws, but they're big. So the bigger Phillips head and the ratchet actually worked really well. It didn't slip out of the Phillips like I was afraid of. I wanted to get like an Allen head screw, but couldn't find one that had a tip on it. All of them were like a machine screw. These Phillips worked all right. The vibration of the pneumatic wrench, the ratchet rather, kept the tip in there, kind of like an impact screwdriver on a wood screw. And now I'm ready to do a little bit more sanding and ready to put some fiberglass on, I think. I cut some bulkheads. I'll show those. There's one of them. It's kind of in place. It's what I want. You can see there's a gap on the side of it, and that's kind of why I have the bulkheads. I'm going to clamp that nice and tight and then fiberglass that in. I have to do a little bit of cutting on that existing fiberglass bulkhead. You can see I'm going to cut some of it out of the way just so the bulkhead the new one fits nice and square like I want and tight against that fiberglass. I might even put a couple screws in that fiberglass to hold it tight there. I have 2 of them. Here's another little one. It goes right there where you can see that existing fiberglass bulkhead. I also have to put in a little bit more floor support, but I'm going to do my fiberglass first. I'm going to get all the stringers fiberglassed in, and then from the top of that stringer to the back, I got to get something to hold the floor up level. I'm just going to go on the outside of the motor mounts. I decided to not fiberglass that in. I'm going to use this. I think it's 1 inch or 1 1/8 plywood for that to hold the floor up. I decided not to fiberglass those in because if I ever want to take the motor out, I'd way rather be able to pull those supports out of there to get to the nuts on the motor, and it's going to be much easier to not fiberglass them in. Once I'm fiberglassed and I want to put those on, I will resin them very heavily. I'll put 2 or 3 layers of resin on them just so they're waterproof. I'm not even concerned if they rot because they'll be super easy to change, other than tearing out the floor, but that's pretty minor at this point. This is gonna last 20 years, what I'm doing here. So if anybody ever wondered about a decent way to mount a motor, I think this is it. I mean, you're gonna have all them wood screws in there that are gonna be protected with resin and fiberglass. The bolts are welded, as you saw from the previous part of this segment. They're welded from the bottom all the way up through. They're not going to break off. Grade 8. I'm going to add fiberglass down on the bottom underneath. That's actually where the bilge pump mounts. Somebody did that a while ago, and there's only one layer of mat on there. I'm going to double that up. There was a factory joint. You can see right there that I sanded off. I didn't like it. I'm going to put a layer over that. Any other little things that I see that are weak, I've got plenty of resin, plenty of fiberglass, so I'm just going to keep adding to it. The bulkheads, that reminds me, I'll show you what I did there. Hi. I actually kept those up off the dagger so water can run through underneath. So there's that.